Hey, it's Jerome Bragg's medical intuitive that teaches you how to heal yourself through the practice of self-love. In today's video, I wanted to come and share something I've been meaning to share for a long time, and that is what I learned about life and healing from my own journey from doing mediumship readings. So, one of my intuitive and psychic abilities is mediumship. And this ability opened for me after my second near-death experience. So I've talked about my near-death experiences here on this channel. Uh, and it was the second one. After the second one I had in 2005, a few years after that, I began to hear people's loved ones who had crossed over on the other side speaking to me, relaying messages to me to give to their loved one, especially if I was in that person's presence. Like I was in a friend's presence whose grandmother had passed, or I was in some woman's presence whose husband had passed or child had passed. Um, this began to happen. I began to get I would hear it and I would feel it in my body. And this wasn't something that I had, ever wanted to be. Medium was ever something that even when I was studying, even before I had my near-death experience, I was very interested in metaphysics and spirituality, and was aware of, channels and psychics and mediums, and had my own intuitive abilities, but they weren't very developed. I could sense things, I could feel things, I could feel the truth of something, but that was pretty much the extent of it. But I was very interested in channeling, but I was never really interested in mediumship at all. That wasn't something I was interested in pursuing. It wasn't something interested. I didn't have a lot of death in my family at that time in my life. So that wasn't something that I was interested in at that time. I was in my early 20s. And I definitely wasn't interested in something that I wanted to do. Right. I was more interested in channeling because that just seemed so fantastic to me at the time and so out of this world. Um, but after my near-death experience happened, and I began my healing journey from terminal diseases, one of the intuitive abilities that opened was mediumship, and this is actually a common experience for people who have near-death experiences, or they have some type of intense spiritual or mystical experience. Usually after that, your intuitive or psychic abilities will start to either open up for you, or they'll start to really enhance and strengthen. As soul beings having human experiences, we all have intuitive and psychic abilities. Some of us, um, none of our two gifts will really look the same, like how they are, how we use them, what they look like in usage. But we all have access to that. That's part of what we are as souls. But also what will be strong for you and what usually will open for you is the gifts that will help you most fulfill your soul's mission for this lifetime, fulfill its purpose for this lifetime in some type of way. I didn't know that until after my near-death experience, but that was definitely something that happened for me. And one of the things that happened was I began to have the ability of a medium. And so I did work as a medium for many years after my near-death experience. I did mediumship readings for people where people would come to me. I worked in psychic fairs across the country. I had private clients, people that would come to me to connect, for help connecting with their loved one who had crossed over to the other side. And it was doing these type of readings for people when I started to do that kind of work, that I began to learn a lot myself. And what I learned myself in doing these readings was what really aided me in my own healing journey from terminal illness. And so I wanted to share with you some of those things. The first thing I really kind of learned in doing mediumship readings was that every soul has a life review. Every soul, when we transition from this lifetime and we go up to the other side, no matter who you are, no matter what your color is, what your gender is, sexuality is, belief system is, every single soul. I've talked to souls from across the country, from across the world, not just in the country where I live, but I worked with people across the world and with, relatives and loved ones from across the world. So different languages, different genders, sexuality, all of that, right? So no matter where you are, who you are, what your background was, when we die and we cross over to the other side, no matter what your death was either, right? No matter what the cause of your transitioning from this lifetime into the next was, um, one of the first things that happens when we cross over to the other side is we have a life review. And I learned this because almost every single soul, and this was kind of the uniqueness of my particular mediumship gift, was that some people in their mediumship gifts, they just relay a message from their loved ones to let the person know that they're still okay and they're looking out for them, and that, maybe something for their life, right? But almost every single mediumship reading I did from the very start, from the very first one I did, um, the souls wanted to convey to their loved one what they saw in their life review. And this was huge for me because, one, in my first near death experience, I had a life review. I didn't actually cross over and die and go into the other side in my first near death experience. My life review was happening while I was dying on the hospital bed. And it was a little different. And I've done many videos on that first life review, so you can, go to some of my older videos and see that information in detail if you want. Um, but I had never heard of this before. Before I had that experience, I had never heard of that. I didn't know what a life review was. I didn't know that other people had had experiences like that. And so when I began to do mediumship readings and all these souls were talking to me and they wanted to share with their loved one about what they saw in their life review, and that they had a life review and what they saw in it, it was one, a confirmation for me about what I had experienced was real. And also that this was something that we all go through. And also, what they shared with me that they wanted to really give to their loved ones from what they saw in their life review. So in a life review, what ends up happening is your entire life flashes before you, get shown before you. Some souls experience it like a big movie screen, and your life gets put up on the movie screen, and so you're watching it like a movie. Some souls, it's like a just like a download into their consciousness, and they can just see their whole lives from like this panoramic view. It's different how kind of it's shown, uh, and depending on who the soul is and what the soul is supposed to see. But what was similar is that in almost every life review, you start to see how you lived your life, the choices you made, the choices you didn't make, and how those choices that you made and didn't make, and how you were being in your life, how you were showing up in your life, how you were interacting with people, how you were showing up in your relationships, etc. How all of that, one, served the purpose of your soul's mission, right? Did it serve the mission for which your soul came to? Did it help to serve that, or did it take away from that? Also, one of the big things is, how did your way of being in the world, did it affect everybody, right? And not just everybody that it's like literally everybody you ever encountered, not just the people that were in your family, not just your lovers or your best friends, but like the people at the grocery store, the clerk at the grocery store that you were talking to and you got mad with because she didn't, count your change back quickly enough or correctly enough. How did that end up affecting her and the rest of her life? Like, you get to see all of that. This is what these souls were telling me, right? They were showing me and telling me. And one of the big things that they would see, and so you get to see that pain, and what a lot of new people that have experienced their life review and their near death experience talk about is that you literally feel the pain of that person as if it happened to you, and you feel it as intensely as it happened to that person. And so, if you were very judgmental or critical of somebody, if you shunned somebody's dreams, if you were violent or abusive to somebody, you feel what they felt, right? And so the importance of this for this conversation is that what almost every one of the souls wanted to share with me in when they were doing, speaking to me and trying to converse with their loved one that was alive sitting in front of me in the reading was that in their life review, they got to see how they withheld love from that loved one, right? And again, I've done many, many readings over the years. I've done, readings for children whose parents had passed, that they didn't have a good relationship with their parent. I did readings for parents whose children had passed. I did all types of readings where, people who were married for many, many years and their loved one, their spouse passed way before them. And so I got to see this from many different perspectives, and the souls would always, it was almost like they wanted to come in and apologize in the beginning for not being loving, not being as loving as they really intended to be, not showing love, not supporting, not sharing their real feelings, not seeing the truth of their loved one. This happened a lot with parents. This happened a lot with parents who had transitioned and their child was coming, had booked me for a reading and they wanted to speak to their parent on the other side. This happened a lot. That parent would often say, like, I'm very sorry, I didn't see, who you really were, and I didn't really support that. I wasn't as loving as I should have been. I wasn't as supportive because again, they saw their life review and they got to see how their behaviors uh, as a parent didn't fully nourish the child with the love that that child needed and how that affected the child's development into their adulthood and the rest of their soul's matriculation in this lifetime. And so that was one of the things they really, 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 really wanted to express, right? Their apology for it, that they see things differently now. This was another thing that I really learned from them talking to me about their life reviews, that when we have a life review, we understand the choices, why we made those choices. There's no, like, yes, you get to see all of that, but this is another thing that I fully got to see, that there wasn't any judgment, that there wasn't some higher being that was judging the choices that you make and the areas where you didn't show love and the choices that didn't support your soul. It was just like a deep level of understanding. And it was a deep level of, I would like to do that differently. I would like to do that better. Right. It wasn't a judgment and a shame, but it was like, I didn't fulfill my intention, and I'd really like to try and fix that or do that better. And this is one of the reasons why our loved ones really like to reach out and try to communicate with us from the other side when they transition, because there is love that was left unfulfilled isn't the word, but unshown, unexpressed, unfelt while they were living. And so between you. And so they want to help rectify that now from that perspective. And so they are always, always around, always trying, always communicating, right? And this really was huge for me because by the time that my mediumship gifts did open up, I did have some loved ones that had transitioned by that time. My grandmother was one who I really deeply loved, and I didn't get to spend enough time with. And to know that she was still around me and that she was trying to communicate with me because she was still trying to help me experience love between us. And that really, 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 really not just healed a hurt in my heart for her, for the loss of her physical being here on this planet, but it also opened me up to be able to communicate with my grandmother, which I do. Like, my grandmother is one of my guides now. She literally talks to me. She helps guide me when I'm going through something. I ask her for help and support or for clarity around something, and I receive it. Right. And this is something that, one, I learned from doing mediumship readings and the souls telling me about their life reviews. And so, summing that particular portion of it up, the first thing I really learned was one, that we have a life review, and that the most important thing that we see in the life review is whether we really expressed love and whether we really were able to um, help the people in our lives feel true love, right? Or whether we didn't, right? And so that was the first thing, right? And that also let me know that the other thing that I learned from that is that because of that, because of the life review and the understanding we gain from the life review, our loved ones tend to stick around us after they transition because they want to help us feel whatever love they couldn't help us feel while they were living. Right. And so, no matter how we could have the most tumultuous relationship, by the way, with that person when they were living, the most tumultuous, painful relationship with them. But when they transition, no matter who they were and how they lived, they come into the fullness of their soul, which is unconditional, the energy and consciousness of unconditional love itself. And they become this consciousness and this energy, and they're trying to connect with us from that space. And they're trying to help us feel that from them now. This isn't talked about enough, but that's really, really, I got that in almost, I'd say 99% of the readings that I did. Their loved one really tried to communicate that to them, that, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do this, or I never said this, or I never let you know how much I care about you, or I was such an asshole. I was going through my own shit. And I couldn't see how beautiful you are. I couldn't be there for you. I couldn't give you what you needed, but I'm here now. And I have a higher perspective, and I am pure love. And I want to share this with you, and I want to help you. That was something they all communicated, right? So that was one thing I learned. The other thing I learned was that when they would talk to their loved one, and they had messages for their loved one, almost everyone had a message. They wanted to convey how they wanted their loved one to truly live their own life, to really follow their heart, to do what they really wanted to do, especially the parents who were speaking to their children. Because oftentimes, in our cultures, our parents, they have, dreams for how they want to see us live, or a lot of them maybe even depending on what culture you came from, they may have actual determining factors for you need to be this and you need to be this or you need to do this. And they may pressure you into that. And that may not be way away from what your soul actually is authentically wanting for this lifetime, what makes you happy in this lifetime. And so a lot of people feel guilty when their parents pass and they feel like they should be doing X, Y, and Z, because I want to make my mother proud, or I want to make my father proud, or I don't want to sell the house because they lived there this whole lifetime, but not selling the house is stressing you out. It's costing you a lot of money. You are in stress and struggle, and you're not happy. And so a lot of times, the loved one will come in, and what they would say was the most important thing for you to understand in this life is you have to live this life on your own terms, to do it authentically and what you really want to do. And that they weren't on the other side holding any judgments or criticism for them, for not honoring something that they wanted, that they may have said they wanted them to do when they were physical, because they have a different understanding now that they're in the spirit. They have a whole different understanding, and that understanding comes from full and total love. And so from love, they see, oh yeah, that's actually bonding you. That's actually not freeing you. That what I was asking you to do, or what I had asked you to do on my deathbed, or anything like that, was actually not freeing you. What's most free to you is what you really want to do. And they really wanted to give their loved ones permission to do what they really wanted to do. I never had a reading where a loved one was like, yeah, you know what? Don't do what you want to do. Do what I said. Never did that happen. It was always a very compassionate, very loving energy that was like, yeah, go follow your heart. Yeah, we really want you to do this. Like, and they can see it, by the way, because when they're in spirit, they are part of you. They're connected even more solidly, because there is no illusion of separation that there is in when we're in physical human bodies. I'm here in this separate body, you're there watching me. There's something where you feel like you're separate from me. Well, when you're in spirit, we're all connected, we're all one, and you experience that very deeply. So there's no kind of separation. So they literally feel the guilt and the shame that you feel around that. They feel the pressure that that's putting on you. They feel the imprisonment and the bondage you feel around trying to live up to them or trying to live up to things that you think they wanted you to do or something like that, or things you're doing because you didn't want to disappoint them. And so it was this full love. And again, it was no judgment. They were like, do whatever makes you happy and that you feel like your soul is calling you to do. There was a lot of that in my readings that I learned about. And so for me, again, I learned that, whoa, what's most important and what my loved ones most really want from me, even if they can't communicate it here, what their souls most want from me is to live my true life, a life that's really true to me, a life that is based upon what I really authentically want for myself, what my inner yearnings are calling me towards, what I dream about, not necessarily, taking over dad's business if that's not what I really wanted to do for work, if that's not what I'm passionate about, like what I'm passionate about. They really wanted you to reconnect to that. And so I really learned that in readings. That was really the second major thing I learned, that our loved ones, the thing that they want most for us, the thing that they want most is um, for us to be happy and for us to live a life that makes us happy based upon what we really want for ourselves. That's what they really want for us. And so, yeah, that was a huge aha for me, and it helped me change my own life around that. The third thing I learned was actually probably one of the most transformative things. Even though those other two things were highly transformative for me, this one actually really transformed my life and became kind of a centered grounding point for the work I do in the world and how I work in the world. And that was, I learned what the essence of the soul is and what it actually feels like. Now, I have my own near-death experience, and I talk about going over there and feeling this immense love and what the energy of love actually felt like. But I learned more about that energy. I learned so much more about it, and I learned the nuances of it and the different facets of it from doing mediumship readings. Because whenever a soul would connect with me to communicate to their loved one who was here physically on Earth alive, there was a feeling they had, right? And yeah, I could get their personality and I could hear their words, and that was an energy as well. But that every soul had this kind of similar essence. And the similar essence felt deeply relaxing and very, very high energy, like a high, 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 high happiness. And I learned very clearly that that is love. Because the souls, no matter who your loved one is or the person is on the other side, what their essence is, what their soul is love energy. They are made of it, they are made from it. And when we cross over into spirit, we leave behind the body, we leave behind our belief systems we gained from this body, we leave behind our wounds we gained from this body, we leave behind, whatever socializations we gained from this body, and we go back into our pure essence, which is the energy of love. And I began to feel that and become very aware of what that feels like when I would begin to connect with souls on the other side. And it was a very just relaxing and high energy. Now, different personalities would have different quirks to their energy. They'd have, some would be very high energy, some would be kind of more mellow, some would be very like stern kind of energy. But at the essence of it all was this feeling of ease and this feeling of happiness. And I learned that that is really our natural state, that that is the essence of what we are. That is our home energy, our home frequency. And it was another thing too, like when I was out of that frequency myself, when I was stressed about something or angry about something, when I wasn't really happy, I couldn't do mediumship readings. I couldn't connect with them. I couldn't feel them. I couldn't hear your loved one. And I had to learn very early on, in order to really do an effective mediumship reading, I needed to elevate my energy. I needed to uplift it. I needed to relax. I needed to de-stress myself. And one of the quick things I learned to do, like if somebody came to me and they're like, please, can you give me a message for my loved one right now? And I may be going through a shit ton of stuff in that moment. I learned to just take some very, very deep breaths to relax my body. And then in my head, I would list out 5 things that made me really happy about my life, that I really loved about my life, that were going really well for my life. Like 5 things I highly appreciated and celebrated. And that would elevate my energy. And as soon as my energy was elevated, I would be able to connect with their loved ones. And I learned a lot about that. That taught me a lot because what I learned is, one, to connect with our loved ones on the other side, but not just our loved ones, but our guides, our angels. A lot of people come to me and ask, how can I hear guidance? How can I get more clarity from them? How can I really communicate with them? And this is the way: you have to get into the energy of your natural state of being, which is an energy of ease. So you have to be relaxed, and an energy of high levels of bliss, like joy, right? So you got to uplift your energy. You got to be happy. You got to laugh. You got to think about what's going well. You got to feel loved. All of that raises your energy up. And you begin to be at the same frequency level where you can receive that type of information from them, or you can receive the connection and the guidance. They are speaking and they are guiding and they are giving you signs, but all the time, by the way, like almost daily, all the time. Um, but when we're not at that level of our own frequency, the level of love, the level of the soul, when we're not in that energy level, we can't receive it. We're not energetic matches. We're on 2 different level frequencies. It's like being at 2 different radio stations, on 2 different radio stations, trying to hear the same song. When this radio station is at this frequency, so it's playing this, and you're at this frequency down here, and that radio station plays something totally different. If you want to hear the same thing, you got to get on the same radio frequency, right? It's the same type of thing. And I learned that. And I also learned not just about receiving guidance, but that is how my soul actually is. And in my own healing journey, I was told in my near-death experience that I had to bring the energy of my soul back into my body, that was the key to healing, that I was going to have to do that, right? That I was going to have to bring my soul, come back home to my soul, bring it back home in my body. And that was the beginning of me understanding what that really meant, that it meant bringing the energy and the essence of ease and happiness back into my body, to where my body felt rested and light and relaxed. And I felt uplifted and fulfilled and joyous, right? And that was the energy of who I really am, and that I needed to bring that back in my body in order to heal it, because the energy of the soul heals. So that really taught me that. That was the second major thing I learned. And then I'd say the third thing I really learned was, again, how much love is there for us on the other side. We are so loved beyond what we could imagine. How we're never alone, how we don't die, we just transition form, right? So there wasn't anybody's loved one who crossed over. There might have been some people's loved ones that I couldn't get a clear connection with or communication with. And so I couldn't really relay a message to them. That did happen sometimes. But it wasn't because they weren't there and they weren't okay. It was just my frequency wasn't at a level or something. Sometimes, a lot of times too, the souls would not speak to me through me to that person, because they were saying they're trying to reach out directly, or it's not time yet for that person to connect with them in that way, or that they're going to reach them in another avenue, right? That will be more in alignment with their soul's mission and purpose here, right? Because that's another thing. They all want to help. They want to help in the most biggest way when they cross over, to help your soul, help you fulfill your soul's mission for being here. They really want to help that. And so they're not going to do anything to get in the way of that, right? They're going to do things to enhance it, to help it, but they won't do things to get in the way of that. And so if you're trying to do something, right, that is going to steer you away from your soul's mission and purpose, a lot of times they won't be in service to that. So sometimes actually getting a mediumship reading may not actually be what is the best thing for your expansion and your growth and your fulfillment of your purpose here. And so sometimes they're like, yeah, no, we're not speaking right now. That was what would happen for me in my sessions. But that always there was so much love and how loved of, and that taught me how loved of beings we are unconditionally, no matter what the person who was sitting in front of me, what they had done or hadn't done, what they'd been through or hadn't been through, what they had and didn't have. They were ridiculously loved. And not just by the loved one that they were coming to talk to. There was always like some guides that wanted to share that information, some angels that wanted to share that information sometimes. And it really, 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 really showed me how wrong we have it. We have it here. We think we're unlovable because we don't look a certain way, or we think we're unlovable and not enough because we haven't achieved something, or we didn't come from a certain place, or all of this stuff. And every time I did a mediumship reading, the immense love that would flow through my body from their loved one on the other side was beyond what I could even really communicate. I tried to communicate it as best as I could, but it was beyond my level of communication at times because it was so immense. And I was like, wow, we're really loved beings. And that really helped change my perspective of how I move through the world, knowing that I'm really a loved being and that there are entities out there that think the world of me, and that because they think the world of me, they are trying to move mountains to have things work out in my favor. And they're always available to help me if I'm confused or if I want help and support. It was a dramatic, drastic change from who I used to be. I used to just be, I felt so alone before that. I was the only child, and being an only child, oftentimes there's a lot of loneliness that you go through because to go through the world on your own, like there's no brother or sister or sibling or there that can share in what you're going through or any of your chores. Also, like all responsibilities, all obligations fall on you. And so I was an only child growing up. And so I often felt very alone, and also just like I was alone in this world trying to figure things out and make it all out. It was all on me. And when my mediumship gifts opened and I began to do readings, I learned how absolutely wrong I had it, how I was never alone, that my loved ones, some of the which I had never even met in this lifetime, like great grandparents and things, were looking after me. They loved me. They were guiding me. Um, how I don't have to do life alone. I can ask for help, both from people who are alive and physical, and also from people who are not alive, who are in the non-physical realm, who are in the spiritual realm. And that help will come just as tangibly as the physical help. It may look different sometimes, but it often is at the same effect and has the same impact and result. Um, and I learned that like what's really important here is to be happy, to live my life how I really wanted it to, and to share love as much as I can. To share love with anybody, not just the people that are directly in my inner circle, but anybody I interact with, right? That I come across with. Can I be a loving presence to them in some way? You know, protecting myself so I don't get harmed, right? But also um, trusting that I'm loved, and so that love will make me safe here. Um, and that really the biggest thing I need to do is just stay in the essence of my soul, which is the energy state of love, which is the feeling of, mostly the feeling of ease and happiness. And I really, truly, again, that really changed my life, and it changed how I work with people, and helping them heal, and looking at, oh, you've been disconnected from the essence of your soul for a long time. You haven't been feeling at ease. You haven't been happy, and that's why the body is breaking down, because the body was created, by our soul. It was manifested by our soul to, uh, transport the essence of our soul and to be fueled by it, even more than the food we eat. The essence of our soul is fuel for the body's health. But when it's lacking in that, when it's lacking in the energy of love, meaning the energy of ease, the energy of happiness, the energy of worthiness, the body, just like a car, when it's low on fuel, it starts to break down. It can't run at its best. Um, and to let people know that, all these belief systems that we hold that are telling us we're unlovable and unloved in some way are actually false. They're really, really false. We're way more loved than we know. Uh, and again, also that, if I want guidance from my spirit guides, if I want guidance from my loved ones who have crossed over onto the other side, like my grandmother, if I want to talk to my angels or anybody else over there who loves me and wants to support me, I receive it best. I receive that guidance best when I am relaxed and when I uplift my energy. And so that's my work, right? And so these were the things that I really, really, really learned, doing mediumship readings, that, um, really helped transform my life and change my life, and actually change how I work with people and how I teach people. Uh, and That there's nothing to fear about death. Oh, that's the last thing. There's nothing to fear about death. Every single person that spoke to me, was more than okay. They wanted me to know that they were more than okay. They are in a beautiful place. That death itself was just like walking through a door, but walking through a door going back to your real self. That's realer than anything you experience right here. And that, what you'll know, the thing you take with you most is the love that you experienced here. And when you look at your life review, if there was more love available that you didn't experience, or there was more love available to share that you withheld in some way, when you go to the other side, that becomes almost, objective number one. You want to rectify that. You want to make sure that love gets shared in some way, that it gets experienced some way. And so you begin to try and guide the people in which that you withheld love from. And you try to enhance the experience of love you had with the people, that you shared it with here, which is why they don't leave us. They haven't left us. They're still here. We just haven't been, taught how to, position ourselves energetically to be able to receive them. And hopefully I did a little bit of that for you today. So, yeah, those were kind of the main things that I learned from doing mediumship readings. There were some others, but these were the main ones I wanted to share with you. So I hope you got something for your own journey, out of this video. And if you know anybody who this can benefit, please share this video with them. Subscribe so you can get some of my other videos. I will be posting a lot more, these days. And I got a lot more I want to share, because I haven't shared everything from my near-death experience nor from my healing journey. So I got a lot I want to share with you. So as always, I love you. Now go love yourselves. Bye.